Today we're going to talk about intentional high school planning in the way that we select classes so that we can increase the amount of rigor that we have in our overall course schedule. So we're really going to be focusing today on classes that are College Board AP, IB, dual credit, and then what pre-IB looks like and means. Here is the table of contents of what we'll cover. We'll discuss some jargon, we'll talk about college admissions, we'll touch on what Gen Ed means, we'll review some graduation requirements, we'll touch on some transcripts, and then we'll talk about what it means to be an IB diploma candidate. So first off, the jargon. What does it even mean? So words like advanced, pre-IB, and accelerated all mean the same thing. They describe a class that is a little bit faster paced than a regular level. You can expect a higher workload, more independent work. It serves as a progression towards AP, IB, or dual credit classes, and on a transcript, it is unweighted. Now, College Board Advanced Placement, or AP as we call it in high school, is different. These are college level classes that are taught at a high school by a high school teacher. There's a significantly higher workload. There's more independent work that is required. College level reading and writing are expected. The homework and tests are more rigorous. At the end of the course, students would take an AP exam, and that exam determines whether or not they will earn college credit, and then classes are weighted on their transcript. International Baccalaureate, or IB, is what Atherton is most known for. It does have open enrollment just like AP does, but the workload is also at a college level. So they're college level classes. They're taught by a high school teacher. You can expect college level reading and writing. The testing method is not necessarily multiple choice. IB is more about application of material. These classes are weighted on a transcript, and only juniors and seniors are allowed to take them. IB has two options, IB diploma candidate and IB course candidate. IB is an international program, and Atherton is the only JCPS school that offers IB. An IB course candidate describes somebody who's taking at least one IB course during their junior or their senior year. And then course candidates are eligible for IB Theory of Knowledge if they take 3 IB classes. A diploma candidate is very different. A diploma candidate is somebody who is pursuing an IB diploma, and that diploma is internationally recognized, and the diploma is awarded based on the number of points a student scores. If you want a workload comparison to what college students would look like, it's between 24 and 30 credit hours of college type work. So not necessarily credits, but college type work. Dual credit, on the other hand, dual credit, abbreviated DC, stands for a class that is actually a college class, and it can be taught at a high school. We have several classes here that are taught in the building by a teacher or facilitated by an Atherton teacher, where students are receiving not only high school credit but also dual credit. The class that goes on the high school transcript is weighted. Students also get a college transcript with that course as well. Dual credit is not an open enrollment type of class. They are required to meet a specific GPA requirement for the class, and that is going to depend on the institution that's offering the college credit. At Atherton, we have several options. The scheduling book will have DC next to any pathway classes or core content classes that offer dual credit. Next, college admission. So why do these courses matter? Colleges are not just looking at GPAs or ACT scores or SAT scores. They're also looking at the rigor or the course rigor for students. So rigor refers to the academic challenge of classes. So the more difficult a class, the more rigorous the class. It looks at not just maybe one class being tough, but looking at all classes on that person's transcript. So rigor is important because a rigorous class prepares the student by teaching them and having them apply skills that are useful in school, as well as business and the business world and in life. So more like your soft skills, so critical thinking, time management, work ethic. Rigorous classes in high school are a significant predictor of college success. In Miss Burley's class, we talked about the reason that they are such a good predictor is that kids are already showing that they can do college when they are completing these classes successfully, and so then that means that they can do well in a college setting because they've already successfully completed these classes. Okay, Gen Ed. Gen Ed stands for General Education. A lot of the times IB, AP, or dual credit classes can be applied to the Gen Ed. They make up the major part of a college degree. They're the foundation. They are often required curriculum and sometimes take up the first 2 years. I like to tell kids that they mirror the topics of high school graduation because they do cover that similar core content. Now, I had students review their high school graduation requirements, that these were the things they had to take. And so then we talked about ways that they could add rigor. Could they add rigor into the places where they saw things that they had to take? Or were there pathways or academies or electives where they could look for rigor? So we talked about, places where they felt strong and where they could look at the scheduling booklet in order to find more rigorous classes. Then we did a transcript review. So I had students look through this, and what we pointed out was that this particular student had pretty good grades. They ended with a 3.6 GPA, and they didn't really challenge themselves. They took an AP psychology class their junior year, and then they took an IB psychology class their senior year. And when testing, both of those classes actually would count for the same college credit. We looked at the number of classes this person took, and it looked like they were taking some study skills or eating type classes where they weren't getting credit. And so we talked about how even though this person had A's and B's, that this was not necessarily a very strong schedule or a strong transcript when you compared it to the next person who had a very similar GPA. But because this person challenged themselves with IB and AP classes, that even though they didn't make as high of letter grades, that their GPA was equivalent, and that if we were looking at who has proven themselves to be more successful, we would more likely accept the second student. Okay, IB diploma candidate. What does that mean? So this is just going to be a brief overview. To be an IB diploma candidate, this describes somebody at Atherton who is trying to earn the IB diploma. They have to complete one class from groups 1 through 5. So group 1 is English and Language and Literature. Group 2 is a world language. Group 3 is individuals and societies, so like social studies. Group 4 is experimental sciences, so that's aligned more with the sciences. And then group 5 is mathematics. Then students must complete one class from group 6, the arts, or take an additional class from groups 1 through 5. And then, in addition to that, they have to complete 3 HL or higher level classes, 3 SL or standard level classes, complete TOK, which is theory of knowledge, and that includes the essay and presentation. They have to complete an extended essay. They have to complete a community action service project, and then from that they obtain 24 points. So they would need at least 12 points from their HL exams, 9 points from their SL exams, and then an additional 3 points from TOK, their CAS project, and EE in order to earn the IB diploma. So an IB diploma workshop is being offered for students who are interested in finding out more information and adjusting their schedules to see if that would be appropriate for them. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful in trying to flesh out whether or not advanced classes, pre-IB classes, dual credit, College Board AP or IB classes would be appropriate for your child as you guys are exploring scheduling for the upcoming year.